Thanks everyone for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. I'm your host, Lorenzo Melcher, coming to you from PB Studios, my parents' basement. And hopefully by now, it's been about 5 weeks, but hopefully by now there is a nice graphic right now at the bottom of the screen that has a little logo for PB Studios. So I'd like to thank my parents for always letting me keep my stuff down here. If you don't know, and a lot of people don't do podcasts, I've had places before where I've set up my stuff. It's been great partnerships, but then I got to tear it down every week. So it's nice being able to keep my stuff up here and be able to just leave when I'm done. So thanks to my parents and my little sister for letting me use their basement. Thanks to all of you for always liking, sharing, subscribing, downloading to the podcast, doing whatever you can to help the podcast grow. It is greatly appreciated. If you want to interact, all the social medias, just search the Nerdball Podcast. And of course, if you want to be on the podcast, you can email the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. So and we'll get a hold of you. We'd love to have you on. I very rarely, if ever, have turned anybody down. So I love when people ask me to come on the podcast. I know that's a weird thing for people. Like I don't want to ask to be on a podcast, but I like it because you at least have heard of it to want to come on. So that's good too. So thanks again. I hope you're enjoying all the social media I've been putting out. As long as I'm doing it, I'm speaking to past Lorenzo. I've done a lot of podcasts this weekend and one weekend, so we'll see 5 weeks from now if I'm still doing all that social media. So thanks for everything and enjoy the episode.
Hi, I'm Tyler Seggerman, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Awesome, Tyler. Thanks for coming on my podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
That was the most professional intro I've ever. I'm tempted to want to keep the 3-2-1 in, but I'll take that out. But it was great. Yeah, thank you. I've seen all your posts online all the time about, especially now with high school football. Yep. But just doing sports in general. So I thought I'd reach out, and you were gracious enough to say, absolutely, I'll come on whenever, and it worked out great that you can come on immediately. So thanks again for coming on. I always ask people, the first question I ask is, what is something you're nerding out about? Something you're really into, hobby, something that gets you away from like the daily grind, whether it's something you have always done or something you just picked up, just something you're really into.
It kind of fluctuates throughout the year. I mean, right now it's fantasy football.
Okay, all right.
So I love kind of getting in the numbers and seeing who's going to be projected and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm a numbers geek. My dad is the statistician. So I've always loved math and I've always loved numbers. So anything that involves numbers, I feel like that's kind of my nerdy kind of side of me.
Have you always loved fantasy football?
Oh yeah.
When do you remember getting your first team?
Yeah, see, people ask me this all the time. I don't remember the exact first. I want to say it was high school. I mean, it's got to be. I don't know if I ever had access. I didn't have a smartphone until my senior year.
Okay.
So I don't know if I could have had fantasy before then. But yeah, I'd probably say senior year of high school, or definitely freshman year of college.
Okay.
That's my first remembrance of being in a fantasy football league.
How nerdy does it get for you? Like, because when I've done fantasy leagues, I haven't done one in a while, I think a few years, but normally it's like, all right, before the draft, I'll look at a few things the day of and just wing it. But how in the numbers are you?
So I'm not that invested in it.
Okay.
I do pay attention, obviously, because there is sometimes money involved, but
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm more of like, I'll check it on Thursday because there's Thursday night games. I checked it this morning before I came over, and then that's kind of it.
Make sure everyone's healthy.
Exactly, yeah. That's really, honestly, it's not really the numbers per se. It's more of just if they're going to play because that's obviously important. So
yeah, one thing I really got out of any fantasy sports, my favorite fantasy sport is baseball. I love fantasy baseball.
See, I did play that before. I haven't gotten back yet.
I love that. Yeah. But it just gets you watching any game, because my team is the Cowboys and I would just watch the Cowboys, but then I started playing fantasy sports. I'm like, well, they don't play till tonight. What else? Oh, I have the Cardinals running back. That game's on, I'll watch that. So it got me into football more.
Yeah. Well, and the downside of it too, if you want to look at it that way, so my girlfriend, obviously, she's getting into sports and she kind of follows along with the fantasy now because like who do you have? Oh, you have Josh Allen? I'm gonna go watch the Bills and cheer for Josh Allen. But because I'm a Patriots fan. I grew up a Patriots fan, even though I'm from California. That's a wild story anyway. But it kind of takes the fandom away, though, because when the Patriots are on, but you have the opposing quarterback, who do you root for, So it makes it a little tough. But
I want him to get points, but just not as many.
Yeah. it's a weird dynamic for sure.
Yeah. So have you, besides baseball and football, do you play other fantasy sports too?
Right now it's just mainly football. I did play baseball when I was in college. I loved it. The tricky part about that was obviously balancing college classes, but also checking your lineup every day. Because baseball, you have to do it every day,
Yes, yep.
whereas football, you check it maybe once or twice a week. Basketball, I tried.
I couldn't get into that one.
Yeah, that one, it's kind of similar to baseball where you kind of had to check it every day.
Yeah.
I think there's like a hockey one. I mean, there's all sorts of fantasy. There's actually a college football one. I didn't know this.
Is it really?
There's actually a site that does college football, which I think is awesome because, I mean, those guys put up a ton of yards and points. So.
Yeah. I feel like those teams would, like a team would always be changing.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause you're like,
for sure.
Oh, I have this good quarterback, but how about this dude from some obscure school who's just putting up all these numbers? Like,
Right.
oh yeah, then we should grab him. You know?
Yeah. So I didn't know that until a
that's
few
cool.
years ago. So apparently that's a thing too. So
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I'm sure there might be high school football fantasy here soon. Who knows?
Have you stayed in like the same league for a while? Your fantasy football league?
Yes. Yeah. So like I said, a college is kind of when I got introduced to it, and then from there, I've kind of remained in the same leagues that I've been a part of. So that's nice.
I think that's cool too. I listened to Bill Simmons' podcast, and he talks about how in their league, whoever wins gets to kick out somebody, so that person doesn't play for a whole year.
Wow.
I was like, man, that's pretty high stakes. That I'm sure they're playing for money too,
Right.
But to be like, all right, well, I might not be here again.
That's some stakes right there.
And they don't kick somebody out until the day of the draft. So you can like be prepared, be ready to go,
geez.
and they're like, all right, you're out of here. Sorry.
Wow.
That put a lot of that just like I was looking forward to this, and now you just got to find some free league.
Yeah,
on
at least
ESPN.
let them know ahead of time. That's kind of
I know.
that's rough. Well, so my big one that I've been a part of does auction style drafting.
Yeah, I've never done that.
So so the first year was rough because I'm like, okay, maybe I just got to spend all this money,
Yeah.
but then you run out of money. So then the next year I'm like, okay, I'll spend less money, but then I end up with like $50 left over, and I'm like, I could have spent more, and so it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's obviously it takes a little more preparation, a little more attention to detail. Depends on who do you want, when do you want to take them, type thing. So, but I'm slowly starting to get more into it in terms of how to attack an auction style versus just picking your pick. So
and how does it, I feel like it would take a long time to do an
it does
auction.
take a little longer, yes.
Yeah.
So it's 30 seconds per pick.
Okay.
But once you start bidding, you basically, once your bid made, then it goes down to 10 seconds. And then someone has 10 seconds to outbid you. And so it doesn't take as long as you'd think because once it gets to a certain number, people just stop bidding. Because I'm not going to pay this much money because you have like a salary cap. And then it does take a little longer because it's, people aren't just picking. You're bidding for each pick.
And how does a player get chosen to be like, all right, we're bidding on this guy now?
So there's an order, there's a default order. I mean, it doesn't really matter because you're bidding. So, but there's like a default order. So like person 1 will pick the first guy, person 2 will then select the second guy. So there's not like basically it's just whoever's on the clock per se will just pick whoever they want to put on the bid.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like you said, there's default order, but if you're number 2, you can choose to bid on the number 8 guy or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could go choose the kicker with your number 2 pick, but it doesn't matter because it's just bidding. Now, who you bid on, you start with the highest bid at $1. So if no one else bids on it, you get the person. It's kind of, you don't want to just do that to just get rid of someone on the board because you think everyone's going to outbid them. You want to pick someone that you're going to get in case no one else wants them.
Yeah, that'd be hard to. Yeah, I can see how you say it might take a couple years to figure it out. It is hard.
Well, because initially I'm like, because you like I said, you think you get $200, and then so the highest player is probably projected to get like 75. I mean, that's almost half your salary.
Yeah.
So like, do you do that for one guy? Do you wait and let everyone else get the big people and then kind of fill it in? So like I said, the first year I'm like, I just got to outbid everyone because I see all these names I recognize.
Yeah.
And I ended up with like 2 good players, and then the rest of them were because I didn't have any money left. I literally had to wait and sit there for 2 hours because I had no money to bid because I wasted all my money on the first 2 picks.
Yeah.
So then the next year I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait, but then I waited too long. So I have all this money, but all the good guys are gone because so it's kind of a mix and match of like, okay, you got to obviously pay for the good guys somewhere. So you got to pick and choose who you want and then, fill in the rest. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. You mentioned you grew up in California.
Yes.
That's where you were born?
Yep.
Okay.
Salinas, California,
All right.
which is right on the Central Coast. I don't know if you heard of Monterey or Carmel, but it's about an hour south of San Jose.
Okay. Okay.
So right in the middle, about 20 minutes off the shoreline on the beach. So.
And how long were you there?
So I grew up my whole life.
Your whole life.
Over there.
Okay,
Yep, yeah.
all right.
My dad's a statistician for the Department of Defense.
Oh, wow.
So he works on a military base. And then my mom's a stay-at-home mom. My sister's adopted, so she's got special needs.
Okay.
That's why they're still in California. But yeah, I grew up there my whole life.
What'd you do? Like, did you do anything in high school or
So I played football and basketball, but I played. I was short and unathletic, so I was kind of right in the bench.
Okay.
I did baseball up until I wish I would have stayed in baseball because I feel like I would have enjoyed it more in high school, but. I don't know. I didn't get to play football until high school, so I think that's kind of what carried me away from baseball. Is because okay, this is a new sport, and same thing for basketball. I didn't, I didn't play basketball until high school, so I think being in those two sports kind of shifted me away from baseball because it's new and I haven't done it before. So, but
was it your choice not to play football until high school, or
it was my parents. They didn't want me to get my bell rung early on in my childhood. So
I have a lot of. Being a football coach for so long, I hear that a lot. Like my son has a friend who's a good athlete, and I was like, man, I want him to play football. Especially now, I'm the freshman football coach at Perrysburg now, and they're going to be freshmen. So I keep talking to his parents, and I think the dad might be on board, but the mom is like, I don't know. Which we see it a lot. To each their own. We try to let them know, like, look, I realize like this might happen, or you can get hurt walking down the street. You know? But yes, it is a contact sport, and we're very aware that people get hurt, as we saw last Friday. Like that happens, and so it's hard. Also, as a parent too, you're like, I see where you're coming from. So I'm not just a coach saying, hey, I want your kid. Like my kid also plays football. So it is difficult. And I can see how your parents are like, we're trying to protect them.
Yeah, and I mean, looking back on it, because obviously I was a kid, I didn't know any better, so I didn't really know like the why and the reasons. But like it did make it tougher for me. Being a freshman going into football for the first time, you have all these other kids that had played junior high and middle school and Pee Wee, so it's like you're almost behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
So if you know that your kid is interested in football in high school and wants to play, I mean, maybe Pee Wee, that's maybe too early for you, but at least junior high to get them a little acclimated because once you get to high school, it's a completely different animal, and you don't want to be brand new to everything when all these other kids have been playing, for 2-3 years, if not more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of where I stand. I wish I would have played at least 1 or 2 years before I got to high school, but
yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that's a good perspective, especially for someone who didn't do that.
Yeah.
I moved to Perrysburg when I was a freshman. I wasn't going to play football. I had played football since I was 8. But my dad's like, no, I'll play 1 more year. You're already going to a new school. We got a new house. You're going to be at a high school and not a junior high, and like all these things, like meet some kids. And so I ended up playing freshman year, and it was great. Like I was able to meet people and do all that stuff. And it was a little different compared to you because I had played.
Yeah.
But even now, Perrysburg they start at 5th grade.
Wow.
Some of the other area schools start at 3rd grade. So that's something that I feel like our head coaches, past Matt Kriegel and right now Dirk, have just like, well, we're just going to keep it how it is, and it kind of lessens that like burnout factor if you got 2 less years on it, because that happens a lot too, So, well, growing up in California, being on the sports teams, and what else did you like to do when you were out there besides hanging out?
I'm a social butterfly, so anything that had to do with socializing. We had a boardwalk with roller coasters. That was fun to go to. Bowling. Yeah, just pretty much anything. I mean, my family liked to travel a lot when I was a kid. So we would do we did 2 cross-country road trips and just hitting different spots and visiting family from out of state. So, yeah, I love to travel, love to try new things. That's mainly, just socializing and just being around people. I love cards. Playing games is my favorite.
Yeah.
I think that probably would have been my answer other than the numbers thing. When the first question is I love games. I just got into Euchre. I don't know if you play Euchre.
So I love Euchre.
So Euchre is kind of the new kind of phase for me or fascination for me because it takes some strategy. It's got so I love card games. I love games in general, just being around people. But
Euchre is so much fun. We played in high school all the time. That's when I learned in high school, and we played all the way through college. I didn't go to BG, but I had a bunch of friends that went there, and we'd introduce them. Like, have you heard this game called Euchre? Like, no one. It seems like it's so localized to me. I don't know why. Like,
See,
anytime we ever down at OU, I had friends there that never played. It was weird.
that's weird because I lived in Lima. So before I got to Toledo, I was a sports reporter in Lima.
Okay.
And I got introduced to it down there. So people down there knew it was, and they were huge. Like they would play it every weekend.
Wow. Yeah.
And so because I thought it was just a Midwest thing.
Yeah, me too.
Apparently, it's it's just an Ohio thing. So I don't know, but I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still learning, obviously,
Yeah.
and it takes coordination with your partner, obviously, to be good at it. But I love it.
Yeah.
And the more I can play, the better.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We would play at my friend's house, and his parents would play with us, and then they taught us a different way to play. So it's still euchre, but you take all the nines out, and you put the two of spades in.
Okay.
And the two of spades becomes the highest card, no matter what trump is.
Okay.
So we started playing that way because it's a lot more difficult because if you don't have the two, then you can't go alone because I might if I don't have enough trump, then I might get euchred, you know. So it was a cool way to learn. So once you learn the regular way, but it is a cool way. I like playing that a lot. Do you play other card games, or do you like cards?
Phase 10 was kind of my favorite growing up.
Okay.
I don't know if you've played that before. But
I've seen it.
That was a good family game. It's kind of like Rummy. But yeah, so that was and then my dad got me into poker.
Oh, really?
So I love Texas Hold'em.
Yeah.
Anytime I can get in a tournament or just play cards with some people.
Yep.
Those are probably the other two games that I like.
Okay.
So
you played did you ever have when you were going on road trips and stuff? We would do it sometimes. Have I guess you would call it car games or road trip games or anything. Did you guys ever do any of that?
We would play games in the car, not necessarily because the card games per se were just kind of me and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and my mom didn't really have a fascination for it.
Okay.
But we would do the generic car games, the Beetle game, and just picking out license plates and things like that. So
yeah, we have my son has a running list on his phone of all the states we've seen so far, and I don't think we've probably been doing it for about 4 years, and I think we're still missing some. But that's one of those things where you forget about it, and then one of the kids are like, "Hey, do we have that state?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Where's our list at?" Then we go through the list of stuff, so it's pretty cool, So you growing up in California, did you go to college out there too?
So no, I went to Oklahoma State. So
Oklahoma State,
so that was a weird. So I knew. I mean, like I said, from an early age, I knew I wanted to do something sports related. My mom would tell me all the time I would be watching a game on TV and would mute it and just do play-by-play.
Really?
And so that was just something I just enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize I was even doing it until she told me. But yeah, so obviously, like I said, with me not being super athletic and, I was still involved in sports, but I wasn't, going to have a future in college or anything with that. So I'm like, well, what are things I can do? So my senior year, I did PA announcing for the high school games.
Nice.
I played varsity, but the JV, and so in California, it's really weird. They have their freshman and JV games before varsity. So sometimes we wouldn't kick off till 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, on the same day?
On the same day.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
they eventually, I think they changed that to where it was just JV on Fridays, but still it should just be here in Ohio. I'm they have it
It's
perfectly.
beautiful, yeah.
But why would you have it start at 7 o'clock every night? Why would you want? Because there was one injury in the JV game where kind of like the Springfield one where they had to wait on an ambulance. We didn't kick off till 8 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
I'm why are we even why is this even a thing? Just have them play on a different day. And so, but JV and freshmen also practice with us, so I think that's how it works. But anyway, so I knew I wanted to do something sports related. Just Google searched one day, hey, what are colleges that offer sports media? And for whatever reason, even though it's not the top program, because you got Arizona State, Northwestern, all these other good journalism schools, Oklahoma State popped up, and I've never heard of it before. I thought it was just a bunch of country kids, I have all those stereotypes about Oklahoma, and applied. Actually, before I applied, they offered a on-site tour thing.
I was going to ask if you visited.
So basically, it was an official visit. I guess it was a visit to the campus, but basically it was a week-long sports media camp.
Oh,
and so we got to go in the studio, got to track stuff, got to go see what we would do if we chose to do the program.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. I thought it was awesome, so I applied, got in. And that was the only school I applied to.
Oh, really?
So I was kind of, my future was already set. And I'm kind of I'm grateful for making that decision because a lot of my friends in California, they stay home, they don't get to go anywhere. I'd been there for 18 years. There wasn't a whole lot else. I felt like I could get out of myself. I mean, obviously being away from family was tough, but
Sure.
in terms of kind of experiencing new things, meeting new people, doing my own thing, I think it was beneficial for me to get out of California and go kind of be on my own for the first time. And so I, learned those life lessons in Oklahoma, and obviously got to, meet a bunch of cool different people. Got my degree. But it's funny, sports, our profession is not a very easygoing profession in terms of there's not a lot of, like for sports specifically, there's not a lot of jobs out there.
Got it.
So it's very competitive. So I actually started my career as a news reporter in Mankato, Minnesota. Smallest town you could think of.
How did you find that job?
So there's a database of like
okay,
opening
through
jobs
school.
through
Okay.
It's called it's very generic. It's called tvjobs.com. But basically, no, I'm not even joking. Yeah, it does sound made up, but it's actually very helpful. But it has like the entire list of every station, every job that they have open.
Okay.
So I just go through that, and like I said, I was appreciative that I was by myself, so I probably didn't study as hard as I should because I had all these friends, and Stillwater's a fun place, so I probably spent more time. I mean, I still obviously got good grades and everything, but in terms of putting together a professional looking reel, it's probably burned to the ground. I think I deleted it 1,000 times, but it was bad. There's a reason why I started there because I got late to the game in terms of putting myself out there in terms of building because what we do is you go out to games, you cover different things, you put together like a montage, and that's called your demo reel.
Okay.
And obviously, the better you look, the better you come across, the more offers you're gonna get.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that, so obviously I didn't have a whole lot of opportunities coming out of college. But luckily, like I said, Mankato gave me my first opportunity. A lot similar to Lima. It was more like community calendar. Like there wasn't a lot of breaking news. It was a small community. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I actually lived on campus at Minnesota State, which is where Adam Thielen actually went to school.
Oh, nice.
So, it was fun. The winter there, I was only there for 1 year. The winter there was brutal.
I bet.
Absolutely. There was probably more than one instance where my car wouldn't even open. Like I couldn't get my door open because it was -20, -30.
No, thank you.
It was brutal, but it was fun. And then obviously, I'm like, I think I'm good after 1 year, and I didn't, there wasn't an opportunity for me to get into sports, so I kept looking and still couldn't find anything because obviously, like I was a news reporter in Minnesota, so I couldn't build a sports reel.
Yeah.
I was mainly doing news stuff. So when I was applying to sports positions, they're like, "Well, where's your sports stuff?" I'm like, "Well, I don't really have anything because I would help out on Friday nights, but it wasn't like on camera.
Yeah.
It was more just shooting games."
Yeah.
So then. I applied, to sports and news because maybe, okay, if I can't do sports, maybe I can continue to build up on the news side. So then I got a job in Beaumont, Texas, which is near Houston, Louisiana. Wow. And that was kind of where my career kind of broke through because not only was there breaking news, I actually got to learn how to be a true journalist in terms of like having to, manage deadlines and do all these things. Because there are a lot of stuff that happes down in Beaumont, Texas. Severe weather, crime, a lot of cool things too.
Sure,
Like an alligator farm that I got. But obviously Texas high school football.
Yeah.
Because I was a part of that. That's where I kind of been able to break through and get more sports experience and do all that. And so eventually, time came again, which ironically enough, my contract. So we have contracts in our industry. My contract came up in the summer of 2020. And I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be interesting. Like, am I going to have a future? Am I just going to stay here? Like, because like obviously no one was, flying people out. No one was really hiring because, COVID was a huge thing in that time. And luckily, like I said, I, had an opportunity. Lima reached out, which I, again, never heard of these cities before until I applied. And but they're very they're very straightforward with me. They're like, well, right now, because like I said, this is summer 2020. I'm sure you can remember that they didn't know if they were going to have high school sports. So they're like, hey, this is a sports position, but if you come, you're going to be a news reporter if there's no sports.
Yeah.
And so like that was my I'm not, because that was a smaller market. Beaumont, Texas, they operated like a huge top 50, top 80 market because there's 210 markets in the country. It's basically the bigger city.
Okay.
Like New York, LA is 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You got Mankato and Lima are 190. Like they're super small. So I had to really like think about it. Like you've been working your entire career to get into sports. This is the opportunity, but is it going to happen?
Yeah.
Because no one knew if they were going to be sports, if there were going to be restrictions.
If COVID wasn't a thing, would it have been like, yep, I'm going? Like, would you?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. The hesitancy was if there was, because they didn't know if they were going to have sports. I'm like, well, why would I go backwards in a sense? Because like I said, Beaumont was, I think, 120 in terms of size. So they obviously paid a little more. They were more represented, well respected. Lima, like I said, it's similar to Mankato. It's smaller, kind of, more vanilla. But yeah. So had it been sports, no issues, I would have sign me up.
Got it.
But because they didn't know if they were gonna have sports, and then I wasn't gonna, because the station I was at in Beaumont, they were awesome. I mean, they treated you like kind of how we are in TOL. Like, they were great, professional. They knew what they were doing. Not to say people in Lima weren't, but it's just a smaller scale.
Yeah.
There's no competition because there's just a newspaper there. So it's just a different kind of dynamic and landscape. And so I knew, if I was going there to be a news reporter, that it would be, detrimental to my growth.
Got it.
As a journalist. And
So
luckily,
took a gamble.
I took a gamble. Yep, and so luckily it paid off. There was sports. Obviously, there were some restrictions during that season.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to see kind of what that was like in 2020. But yeah, so obviously I got that sports experience. Was a sports reporter.
Yeah.
Finally, for the first time in my career, absolutely loved it.
I say, how's that like? The feeling, how's it feel for you? You're like, this is what I'm working on, and I would imagine it felt great, but it didn't matter what size the market is. But how was it for you?
No, it felt like a dream. I treated it. It was kind of weird because I treated it like I was a recent college graduate. Like, I had been in the industry for 3 years, but when I got to Lima, I felt like I was like a recent. That was my first job.
Yeah.
Because of how much passion I had for it, and knowing how much work I put in to get to this spot. Because that's the thing I tell people all the time. Everyone's journey is different. Like, we have Noelle, who's our coworker. She's here straight out of college. We have Chase, who had to do kind of similar to me, where he had to kind of run through a bunch of different jobs to get to his position. So everyone, has to do their own journey, has their own, trepidations and trials and tribulations. But so yeah, to get to Lima, and again, it was also like masking the excitement, knowing full well it's COVID and people are, not doing well. It was kind of tough.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously we got through that. I was there for 2 years.
What are the schools down there that you're covering?
So Marion Local is one of them, actually.
Oh, wow,
so which people don't know a lot. So Marion Local is actually part of the Dayton market.
Okay.
So Lima's market size is actually very small. They might have expanded a little bit since I left there, but there's only 3 counties. There's Auglaize, which is like Wapakoneta. There's Allen, which is like Lima Senior, Shawnee, those schools, and then there's Putnam, which is Ottawa Glandorf, Columbus Grove, that type of thing.
Okay.
But we obviously our sports director at the time knew that, like, because even like us today, like, we don't spend a lot of time like in Defiance or Ottawa Glandorf or Findlay. So like, we had a partnership with Lima.
Okay.
Where, if we get Findlay, we'll give it to them. If they get Findlay, they give it to us. So like a lot of those middle grounds. But our sports director knew that. That was also the case down south. Like Dayton, which I think they only have like 1 sports department down there. They have 4, they got rid of sports altogether pretty much. So he knew that there was all these high schools that weren't getting covered.
Yeah.
Why not, make them a part of us, even though they're technically not our DMA.
Yeah.
And so we would co-cover Coldwater, Marion Local, which is nice because they were really good.
Yeah.
And so it made the job a lot more fun. We're just driving out an hour to go cover some, crappy teams. Like, they were obviously the best teams in the state.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was fun.
That's awesome.
And my best memory from Lima was it would have been 2020 state championships football. They were held at Massillon. Can't remember the Tigers. Massillon, Washington, probably. Yeah, because they weren't opening up, Tom Benson for state championships that year. Yeah. So all the championships were held at this high school stadium. I mean, it was a good stadium.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a high school at all because, they're insanely, got a lot of money and obviously insanely historic. But anyway, my dad visited. And so he's like, hey, can I come with you? Now, technically, we're not supposed to, have people with us. But I'm like, it's Lima. It's like, no one's going to, it's on the weekend. Like, no one's going to know. So I brought my dad with me. And, hopefully my sports director, my old sports director, news director don't hear this. But I brought my dad with me. And so it was Van Wert, who hadn't been in a state championship in like 20 years. They went on a historic, they were like a 6 seed. Just kept upsetting all these teams. They were a great story. And then we also had Coldwater, which, they're usually there all the time. But the crazy part, so my dad was there, and, like, he's giddy because, like, he's, on the sidelines and, like, seeing, I still don't know how we snuck him in because, like, he wasn't on the list.
Yeah.
I just had him hold the tripod. I'm like, hey, he's my photog. And, like, they would say, like, they don't care. Like, they just let him right in. So he's like...
It's like you can get anywhere wearing a reflective
vest. I was
vest,
going to say, oh, yeah, just bring in a camera. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, exactly. Obviously, hopefully I don't stir the pot there. And you see all these people bringing cameras at games now. They have the sideline all filled up. But, anyway, yeah, so, like, he was obviously excited because, like I said, he's kind of a nerd when it comes to, like, football and things like that. And, so I'm obviously doing my thing, and the Van Wert game gets down to, it starts to rain toward the fourth quarter, and the Van Wert game is tied game, I believe. I have to go back, but, and this kid never kicked a field goal in his life. Kicks a game-winning field goal to win the state championship. And so people are going crazy and, everything. So then eventually I have to put all that together, send it back to the station. Then I have to get ready for Coldwater. Well, by the time Coldwater game kicks off, it's sideways rain. It's freezing. It's the most miserable condition you could think of. So, of course, I'm having to, like, figure out my camera because my camera is all, like, wonky because it doesn't like the humidity and it's a bunch of rain. My dad is up in the press box. Like, because he's not a journalist, so he's, like, just yelling at because there was, like, some college football game on or something. So he's just, like, yelling. People are, like, telling him to be quiet because he doesn't know, like, what's going on. Yeah. Like, usually when you're in the press box, like, yeah, you can talk, but, like, he's screaming at the TV, like, what are we doing? I shouldn't have brought him. But anyway, no, he stayed up there because obviously he didn't want to be involved in the whole rain and sideways stuff. And so, but that game also comes down to a last second field goal, and Coldwater also kicks a game winning field goal. So I'm like, how crazy is that? Yeah. That you got two of our teams too. It wasn't just like two teams that they were playing, like two of our teams, two game winning field goals on the last second. For a state championship, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And but then they kick us out of the stadium because people don't want to stay till midnight for us to finish our work. So I'm trying to find a way to get stuff sent back to our station because Massillon and Lima are like 2 hours apart. So I can't drive back, and we want to make it the 11 o'clock. Yeah. And so we find a B-dubs, and so my dad, of course, is like, he just got nothing to do, so he's eating. I order something, but I'm working on my stuff, so I didn't have a single chance to eat anything. He was kind of getting like a little frustrated because, like, dude, like, why are we here? Like, we got to eat.
We're here for the Wi-Fi.
Exactly. I'm here for the Wi-Fi so I can get some stuff sent back. Well, then they close at like 10:30, 11. It would have been like 10:30 or 11. No, 10. Somewhere in that window because obviously we have an 11 o'clock newscast. Yeah. And so they're like, yeah, we're closing. You guys got to go. And I'm like, I'm not done yet.
How far? How close are you? Are you even like close? Or are you still?
Yeah, I was probably like halfway, a little over halfway done.
Okay.
Because what we were doing was, I was shooting like an intro and a tag. So like, hey, we're here at Massillon. Here's the highlights. Here's the post game, and then I wrap up with like some type of factoid and stuff. So. Putting that together obviously takes some time, which I give credit to our team because every Friday we have to do that, even if we're in Bascom or Delta or or not, no offense to those communities, but their Wi-Fi is not always fast. Yeah. So it's people don't realize that it's a quick turn for us when we have to get stuff in for a big board. But anyway, so I found a random gas station because also my laptop was dying and I didn't have a charger for some reason. And so, I had one, but I didn't have like the one that goes in the car. Oh yeah. And I learned this because I put it on Facebook. My dad took a picture of me I was laying on the gas station floor editing my package. And I put that out. I mean, I wasn't trying to like get mad at the gas station or anything. Yeah. I was just like, this is like, what a day. You had these amazing games. You had this terrible weather. And then obviously to end it all, I can't even find a spot to edit. And so I put it on Facebook and it blew up. Like people were like, oh my God, that's horrible. How dare your station? And then my station got getting attacked for like putting me in. And then I'm like, because that wasn't my intention. I was just like, this is showing like, hey, this is how my night ended.
It's hard work, dedicate. Like this is what we got to do.
Yeah. And then like my station's starting to get attacked because like, oh, they should have you. They told me about like this adapter you can plug in your car. They can put your outlet in. And so I got one of those. But yeah, it was just a while. I mean, I got everything in luckily. But it was just, that was one of the craziest nights of my life in Lima. So yeah, and then obviously Jordan Strack, who's obviously no longer with our station, kind of like I said, because we would work together every now and then with highlights. So he kind of knew what I was about in terms of following me on social media. So I think that kind of connection helped me get the job here in Toledo. Okay. And then obviously I've been here ever since.
How long have you been here?
So I'm third year.
Okay.
That's my third full year with Toledo, with TOL.
I never noticed, and I don't know if it's a recent development or if this has always been, but I've noticed it with you because I see your videos all the time, that you have to film everything yourself. Then you're also talking and possibly interviewing people. Like you're doing all these things, and then you also got to edit. So you're just a one-man crew.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It's got to be hard sometimes to because if I feel like if like one thing doesn't go right, you're like ended up on a gas station floor. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like that would happen more than not.
Yeah. I mean, obviously through the years, I've kind of developed certain tricks to kind of help speed up that process. I mean, it did help because since I got into the industry, I've always been by myself. Like we would have photogs when we go live, but in terms of like shooting games and editing stuff, like you never really have help per se. So I've always kind of been by myself when it comes to that. So I'm not. It's not something that overwhelms me. I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get this done? I just figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
But like for example, at Perrysburg Springfield, I'm shooting the game. I kind of keep an input in. Let me.
You're good. You're good.
Get my thoughts here. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, but like an image in my head of like what. Because usually it's 3 plays for big board because we get 30 seconds per highlight.
Okay.
So like if like Brady Maxwell's touchdown, I knew exactly that was going to be my first play regardless. Okay. I knew the flyover was going to be my establisher. So like right then in 5 minutes, I already knew what my first 2 plays were. Okay. And I mark when I shoot. If there's a good play, I'll mark it with a certain signal. And so when I go back and I see all the clips, instead of going through each clip and where's my stuff, I can see exactly where that clip is. Okay. So that speeds up the process too.
Yeah. So you're not searching for.
So I'm not searching for things. That's like find your 3 ones or your covers, and you're drag them in the sequence, and you're done.
Okay.
So that speeds up a lot because I'm usually getting back to the station. Now, granted, it's my own doing because I like to, as because a lot of times we're out there, we shoot all this video and we only air 30 seconds of it. I'm like. It's good for TV, but like for everyone else, it's like they want to see their, because sometimes, you get a play where this kid, that's his only catch of the game, or get, so I like to, I'm insane for doing this, but I'll stay up until like 2 a.m. putting these longer highlight videos together. So everything I get, is included. So it's not just, what you see on TV, because a lot of times like it doesn't really tell the whole story. It's just like, because of our time constraint, we can only show 3 plays typically. So I like to give back a little bit, and I think it's rewarding because, like I said, you get kids who probably never see themselves on TV, but I got their catch or their tackle for loss, like Hayden. I don't know if Hayden's been on. He got that big hit, and then he got the fumble recovery, and I got both clips, and I put it on the video, and they didn't make big board. I think, I guess I might have put the fumble recovery on there, but like, stuff like that. So like those clips that don't make it on air, they can still be shared and seen on social media. So that's kind of where, and I've been doing that since I was in Texas.
Okay.
Just because I think it's, it's more rewarding for me because, like, why am I going to spend an hour here at this game to go back and show 30 seconds? To me, that doesn't, it doesn't justify you taking that time and doing all that. So I feel like at least, I don't get paid to do this. I just do it for my own free will. But I think it's, you see it. It's rewarding for the kids because, like, I didn't get to see my play on TV, but it's on Twitter and Facebook now.
Yeah.
So you can still see and share it. And so that's where the reward for me comes in, is by doing that is, it may not air on broadcast, but honestly, it lives permanently on social media. So like it's almost better in the sense to put it on there than, maybe missing it on TV. So,
well, like you said too, a big thing was like, I'm out here for 2 hours covering this game. Like, well, if I have all this film, might as well do something with it.
Right. Exactly.
So that's good too. Do you have you ever gone to like multiple games in one day? Have you ever done that, or you always just go to one game?
No, well, so I do 2.
2 games.
Yeah, so usually it's 2, and usually it's nearby. So Mommy was my second game.
Oh, okay.
So usually we try to get it within like a 20-minute window. So that way, if you stay longer, which I obviously had to stay longer at Springfield, it gives me time to get to Mommy within enough time. Because the last thing you want to do is, I'll start at Springfield and have to go all the way to Findlay. Like that's you're asking for yourself to be put in a very terrible mess because you're probably not going to get anything at Findlay or Springfield depending on where you start. Because of that drive in between. So usually we try to pair things that are close together so you can maximize your time while you're there. Because like we're not looking for, hey, we're here. Here's a 3-yard run. Goodbye. Yeah. We want to see good play. So the more time you can be at a game, the more chance. And there's obviously been games where like there's just nothing like. Anthony Wayne Napoleon last week. It was 0-0 going in the fourth quarter. And I had to, I mean, I was anchoring that night too. So I still had a 45-minute drive from Napoleon. And I'm like, do I leave? Do I stay? And I'm like, I have nothing. And luckily, I'm like, you know what? I know, because I was at Liberty Center. They obviously, were doing their thing. So I knew what I had there. And I knew, because over time I've been able to edit quick. I could probably get back to the station and edit my 2 games in 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, obviously I have other responsibilities to do, as getting ready and getting my suit on and everything too. But I knew I had a little more time just because I knew exactly what plays I was going to have. So I'm like, okay, I'll stay for one more drive. Well, then obviously the Napoleon quarterback gets taken down at the 5-yard line. I'm like, that's a great play. Then the ensuing drive, they score a touchdown. And so as soon as they scored the touchdown, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I got my score. I mean, if Napoleon would have came back and won, that would have been rough. But I mean, I couldn't have stayed anyway, because if I would have stayed, I would have not even been on TV. So, and that's, there's no game that is more important than me being and doing a show. Because yes, I have that one game as a responsibility, but I also have to be responsible for doing the highlights for all the other games we shoot. So
what happens if what would have happened if you were late? Like, is there someone else? Like,
I mean, Dan Cummins is still with us, so
okay.
he probably would have stepped in. But I mean, that would be a lot on his plate, just not knowing what games we have, the scripts and everything. Well, people don't realize this. Probably shouldn't admit this, but when it comes to our Fox show, so I'm usually, like I said, I usually get back around 9:30, 9:45. So I'm obviously worried about my games.
Yeah.
We have a new segment called Fan Cam where people can send in their photos and videos from games. So we got a lot for this past weekend, obviously, and that was really cool. So I put that together. Like I said, I'm getting ready. I have to, because usually, it's warm weather out, so I'm shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And then, so I have to completely change my wardrobe just to be ready, and I have to be on set early. So, that window it feels like very quickly because, you have to be ready at this certain point. And, so, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that I have to get done, that's why I have to leave games early. But, what was the original question?
Well, I did say you mentioned Dan Cummins, he would step in, and then you talk about scripts and stuff too.
Oh, yeah. So I was, the admittance piece to this. So I typically don't get to read through the scripts for the Fox show. Now, luckily, because college football and Fox, they like to put these games, on Friday's game, the game didn't start till 9. So that show didn't air till probably 1 o'clock.
Okay.
But we still have to tape at 10:30 because no one's gonna stay that late to go do a show.
Yeah.
But for the Fox show, normally I don't have any time to look over any scripts. I mean, we usually get 13 games, roughly 12. And so, there's kids' names you want to get right.
Yeah.
You got to know what's going on. You don't want to say, here's Perrysburg with the ball, and then Springfield picks it off. You got to sound, like what you're talking about. And it's tough because I'm just going off the seat of my pants, looking at the prompter. I'm like, I've never seen the script before. I don't know who these names are. So, and that's that. But that's literally my reality because I usually don't have time because I'm focused on getting my stuff in.
Yeah.
So we call the Fox show the warm up because of that. Because typically, because it's usually worse in terms of the presentation and me reading these highlights because I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing in real time the names and what these plays are. But then once the 11 comes around, which I think more people watch the 11, I would imagine, than the Fox show. I know exactly, okay, here are the plays, here's the names. I know exactly what the sequence is. Because I still get tripped up because sometimes, and it's tough because you have 7 different people writing your scripts for you.
I was going to ask you how those were made. Yeah.
Yeah. So they write their scripts for me. So obviously I talk and write different than, Chase or Noel or anyone else would. And, so sometimes when I'm reading it for the first time, it's phrased in a way or written in a way that I comprehend it differently. So I'm like, last week I said, this team was up 28-6. They were actually down, but because the way it was written, that's just how my brain processed it. I mean, luckily, like I said, once the 11 comes around, I'm more familiar with what the sequence of events are, and because I look at these highlights as not just here's cool plays. Like I tell the story. How these games go. Was it a slow start? Was it a big start? Was it a huge deficit for these? So I want to be as informed as I can, and usually that's kind of what allows me to be on point for the 11 o'clock big board is I get to go through these in real time and see because the other thing too which helps. I have a video prompter below my script. So when I'm reading my script, but I can take a peek at the video and I can see actually what's going on as well. So that helps me kind of visualize kind of, okay, here's what happened. Here's kind of the way things went at that game. But yeah, it is a little nerve-wracking going on TV and, it's our biggest show, obviously, of the year, and, not reading a single script other than my two.
That's why. Especially add the fact that you're like, you're already like, doing a game, doing another game, changing, getting yours, doing all, like it's just like there is no like even time like to have 2 minutes to just be like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here for a minute. Like it is, It is everything just go 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 go.
Yep.
And which I'd imagine is the nature of news business anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
It's always fast paced.
Yeah. So like to have to do all that or to read these scripts without seeing them. Have they ever anybody ever messed with you in those scripts? Like put a funny word or done something weird
probably not intentionally, but
Okay.
I've probably gotten tripped up,
Yeah.
So,
Would people get in trouble for that? Like if someone intentionally, like
probably.
Let's not say. Let's just leave like curse words or anything out of it.
Right.
But just like some silly word or whatever. I don't know.
As long as it doesn't come across as like negative or like detrimental to the station's reputation. I imagine it would be. But there would be times where, like, because our prompter's electronic, so like sometimes it'll get stuck and it'll just read right through. I've had that happen to me before, and I just have to like ad lib the script. I'm like, I don't know what's going. So, but like I said, the good thing is, because there's a video, I can just, I don't know the names, but I can at least, kind of share based on my own, intuition and knowledge. I can at least see, just follow along what's going on. Oh, hey, here, this guy has the ball. There's the pass, so I can at least do that if things go haywire, which have happened.
The green team tackles the white team.
Yeah. Well, I know the games too, so that helps a little bit. But because I think the important part for me is I want to get the names right, because like you said, there's, obviously, there's stars of every team they're usually going to get, but in the instance that, the one play is a kid who probably never has heard his name called or in the newspaper, you want to get that right, because that family, that community, that program is going to be so appreciative of you acknowledging that achievement. Yeah. And so that's where I kind of come in, is, that's why I'm kind of a stickler on myself, is like, if like, there was a name, I think it was Archibald, excuse me. He had a weird name, and obviously I probably butchered it in the 10. So I called Chase. I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure, like, how do you say this kid's name? Because he had the game-winning interception, and I'd never seen him or heard of him before. And he gave me the name, and I'm like, okay, good. So that way, he didn't think that, that's his one highlight, that we have of him, and I don't want to have it be tainted because I butchered his name on live TV. So
that's what's so frustrating. My name gets messed up all the time. Well, it's more for my daughter now, because she twirls baton, and they'll announce winners and that kind of stuff. And I feel like it's simple, but it's also my name. It's just Melchor, and we say Melchor. Yeah. But everyone always says Melchor all the time, and I always tell my kids, like, look, you guys need to correct people. I was like, it's important. And even when I coach kids, I used to coach junior high track, and I would mess up a name, and there was like 3 weeks went by and I was saying this name wrong, and then finally, like, hey, it was another kid's like, hey, do you know you're saying her last name wrong? I go, no one ever told me. So
well, that's the thing, is people think we're so reliable on, like, we should know everything. It's like, no, we're just reading off a piece of paper like you are at home. Yeah. So if we get it wrong, but like you'd be surprised, because like there's a lot of like weird names down near Lima. And like it would be like Smith, but it's pronounced like Smith A or something. Okay. But like the kids, like, because we just like on TV and newspaper just keep saying the same thing over and over, they're just like, hey, it's fine. Like, no, tell us. Yes. We want to be right. If it's wrong, just tell us. But again, like, it's not us not knowing. It's just we haven't been told. Like, people think, oh, well, you're the news, you know everything. Like, no, the reason we're able to share this information is because we're told it. Yes. Like, none of this comes from our own brains. It's stuff that we internalize and, compartmentalize based on what we see and what we hear. So if you tell us, hey, this kid, is close to a record, or this kid's name is this, like, that's how we know. Like, if we don't, if I don't hear that, then I just have to assume, and that's never what you want to do.
Correct.
So,
especially with names.
Yeah. So,
do you have a favorite part of your job? Like, because I know, because it sounds like you do. If money was endless, you do like 4 or 5 different people's jobs, right? Is there a favorite part that you like to do the best? Most?
Well, we do pretty much 5 different jobs because we're one-man bands. So that's tough. I mean, I love anchoring, but I also love being out in the community. I don't know. I mean, I will say writing is not my strong suit, nor do I like doing it. I was never born to be an author, so I'm never going to do that. And luckily, our sportscasts are only 3 minutes long, so we only have to write a certain amount. It's sports, so I mean, you can make it as casual and easygoing as you want. Add cool acronyms and adjectives in there, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, the favorite part for me is just being able to like get to know people.
Yeah,
Honestly,
okay.
like it's not even really the job responsibility itself. It's just having the opportunity, having the platform to just go out there and say hi to people, meet new
Yeah.
people, kind of hear their story. Because a lot those relationships then kind of help me. They'll reach out later on, be like, "Hey, I remember you. Just so you know, this kid is about to do this," and
Okay.
so that leads to like story ideas. And I do like telling good stories too.
Yeah.
Like that's another element.
Okay.
Highlights are cool. I love doing the videos, like I mentioned before. But when you tell a good story, that hits different for me.
That's why I like doing this podcast, is just hearing stories,
Mm-hmm.
hearing cool things people experienced or things that happened to them. Sometimes it's really exciting, and sometimes there's these bad stories I
Yeah.
hear, of medical issues that people have dealt with, like all this stuff. So like to be able to like hear those and whether it's some sort of therapeutic thing that people enjoy coming and telling them, or people just, I always tell people, because I'll ask people like, well, what do people want to hear me for? I was like, everyone likes to talk about themselves. They
Right.
just don't know it. And it's not like conceited or anything. It's just, I think it's important to get stories out. I
Yeah.
think it's important to hear all these things. And, I've had people come on here that have since passed away, and then now their families get to have this little stupid hour interview that
Yeah.
I've done, that they get to listen to their loved one, So the stories, I would agree, like is like a favorite part of even just talking to someone on the sideline,
Yeah.
even if there is no camera or microphone, it's just hearing,
Well, because that's part of our existence.
Yeah.
You go through life knowing different memories and different things of backgrounds.
Mhm.
You don't go through life and just be like, oh, it's just about me. Everything else is shaded, and
Yeah.
like other people's experiences, other people's trials and tribulations, like that plays a part, because now you're more informed, and just knowing, because you don't want to be, have the blinders on and just have one sense of how the world works. Like,
Correct.
And that's like I said, when it goes back to me moving to Oklahoma for college, like that opened my mind up, my world up so much,
Yeah.
because I was only, I only knew this much when I was in California. And now I know. I mean, I've lived in Minnesota, Texas. Now I know pretty much everything, and it's cool because you get to see how different different people live. And it's not that it's wrong; it's just different.
Yeah.
And like you would have known that if I would have stayed in California my whole life, and just all the, and it's cool experiences too. Like just super, learning about Euchre and like all the different
Yeah.
culture around here in Midwest Ohio. I never would have appreciate it, because I do appreciate it. It's not just like, oh, I'm just saying this because I live here.
Yeah,
Like I actually find it very cool. But I never would have done that if I just, stuck to my, California roots and morals, and, kind of singled myself out in terms of keeping my path narrow. Like I'm an open-minded person. That's why I'm good at my job, I feel like. I listen to people, and I enjoy hearing their stories, because it opens my mind up to, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or like, wow, that's a really cool experience. So it just offers great perspective.
Well, that's what I saw a post this morning on the Perrysburg Facebook page where it said something about living in a small community, and they're glad they lived here for a long time, this and that. And I didn't want to stir up anything at 9:00 this morning, but I was like, look, living in a small town, great.
Yeah.
What could be a detriment is what you just said. Like, the small town, the people here, this, and good. You have a sense of community, but you got to experience other things. You got to experience going to different places, different states, different cities, even. Like you should experience all these things, because it shapes you to be a better person.
Yeah.
You learn all these things, and like you said, learning like. I love that. Oh, I never thought about it that way. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that can be taught, by other people if you just get out every once in a while.
Yeah, and you're never not going to be any smarter without knowing more information.
Yeah.
You're not going to grow by knowing the same thing the same way because like, it's funny, my girlfriend, she's from Liberty Center, small town, she knows everyone. Coming from a big school in a big city in Salinas, like I actually, looking back on it, probably appreciated that more because I didn't know 10% of my graduating class. And like, obviously the culture there is different. Everyone's a little more, self-imposed with here. People are like willing to help you out. And so it's a different dynamic, but at the same time, it's like, so like she was grown up, like Toledo's a horrible place. There's a lot of crime, it's a big city, all these stereotypes that like people have because, and the same thing, like, you grow up in Toledo and you're like, oh, why would I go out to the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
But it's like people just, unless you got to experience it at least once to see, what it's like. And maybe your stance changes, maybe it doesn't, but at least you have that experience.
Yeah.
So because you hear people all the time, they'll give their opinion, but they haven't actually done it yet. So like, you know, you don't really have a stance or leg to stand on because you haven't, you know, you're just talking about something that you don't know of because you're just, you know, assuming or, you know, coming off of, you know, things that you think you know
or what you heard.
Or what you heard, yeah. But now it's funny because now obviously, you know, I take her downtown, we go to the bars, and now she's like, oh, yeah, Toledo's not even that bad at all.
Well,
I'm like, yeah, because all you have to do is go there yourself and experience it yourself. That's the whole, and then same thing with people, you know, people like Noelle comes from a big city, and she's like, what is with all these small towns? Like, there's a bunch of ponds. Like, this is really, really, like, initially she was like very like flabbergasted about like how these small towns work.
Yeah.
And now she's, you know, I mean, I don't say she's in love with them, but she's more open. She understands, like, it's okay. There's more passion. You know, when you go to a small town like Liberty Center, for example, like, I mean, they love their football. I mean, it's a passionate community. People will do anything for you. You know, not to say that, you know, there's aren't, but, you know, Perrysburg is obviously huge. And they're welcoming too, but it's just a different landscape.
100%.
And so, but I appreciate both of them. Like, I can appreciate a Liberty Center, but I also appreciate a Perrysburg because I've been experienced and been opened up to both of them. I can't say that if I, you know, didn't do both, you know, and I think that's important because, you know, if people, you know, I mean, obviously everyone has the right to their own opinion, but like it doesn't really mean much unless you're able to like, okay, this is the experience. This is why I now have that opinion, as opposed to, oh, well, this is what I heard, so this is, you know, it's just. You know.
Well, I'll tell you what. After experiencing going to Hamler my entire childhood, I'm good.
There's not much going. There's a good baseball field. Their baseball field's nice, but other than that, it's
that's where my grandparents lived. So we would go there. I don't know, 2 or 3 weekends out of the month and hang out and. You know, as a 12-year-old, I'm like, cool. Like, I guess I just watch TV again or go play. We literally played on the train tracks. That was what we did. So. Well, Tyler, I appreciate you coming out here, coming on the podcast. This was great. Like I said, I see you all the time out covering the football games, and so now at least I can be more confident, say hello, and chat with you for a little bit.
Absolutely,
So thanks for coming on here, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. If you want to reach out or be on the show, just search The Nerdball Podcast on any social media. If you want to email us, that is thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, there's always YouTube, so you can go on there, subscribe to The Nerdball Podcast, and watch the podcast every week. As always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always supporting the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.